Okay, good afternoon. Today I'm so excited to have Greg Kunin on with me. He is the current Vice President of the National Health Federation and has really lived his whole life in the health and wellness industry, in that he'll tell you a little bit about it, but his dad was actually one of the founders of this vitamin revolution that started occurring, well, he'll tell you how many years ago. 30, 40 years ago, at least, when people started paying attention to what they were eating and what they were putting in their bodies. But today we're going to talk about simple vitamin regimens, and I want him as the expert and the founder and president of a vitamin company himself that really has an amazing product. I want him to answer some questions for me to help bring it into simple terms on maybe who needs vitamins, do you need them, how do you know where to shop, how do you know where to start. So thanks so much for joining me, Greg.
Well, it's great to be here, Kathleen.
Yeah. So, say something about your history. You've grown up in this industry, but how did you decide that it needed to be your life and that there was actually something that needed to be done?
Well, I was very fortunate by happenstance. My father is a medical doctor. He worked at Cornell New York Hospital, did his postdoctoral fellowship at Stanford. And in the mid-'60s, my dad got very interested in human biochemistry and asked a very simple question: is my patient malnourished? So he did what any conscientious doctor, scientist would do, sent the blood into the lab, and well, what do you know? His patient was malnourished. And that created a whole new dynamic in his understanding of what was happening with his patients. This was something that was not really discussed in medical school. So in 1967, my dad basically became the first orthomolecular doctor in America and routinely started checking his patients for vitamins, minerals, the key essentials of life. And it was absolutely breathtaking what he found out, especially when it came to sick people. 100%, they were all malnourished. So that changed the whole paradigm. And for me, I was very lucky. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was very lucky. My dad, the following year in 1968, got very interested in another very interesting area, and that is toxicity. And he was curious to know if his patients were possibly malnourished. So some of your viewers maybe are familiar with the hair test, looking for heavy metals. So my dad started that test in 1968. And by the time I was 8 years old, I was aware of the fact that I had lead exposure, and it was impacting me. I was having headaches. I was having a terrible time in school, having a difficult time being able to keep focus and be able to read. And I was really challenged. And so vitamin therapy happened for me at the tender age of 8 years old, just getting vitamin C and being able to chelate lead out of my system. And it changed my life. And so I realized as I got older, I would get into other areas, sports injuries, and my father continuously saved me. And so I started to develop a tremendous appreciation for understanding the balance of those key essentials of life.
You know, when you said the word malnutrition, it reminded me of how we're talking about malnutrition again these days, even in the obese and people who are malnourished that aren't thin or emaciated. I mean, I think the word conjures up this image, but are you saying that people who eat every day are malnourished and people who maybe are of average or above average weight can be malnourished? I mean, I would.
Absolutely. And in fact, I mean, this can happen for a variety of reasons. Digestion and dysbiosis, malabsorption is common. Certainly, when you get into the more serious arenas of what brings people down, the majors, heart disease, stroke, cancer, and blood vessel damage, about 60% of the population suffers from a thick blood syndrome known as hypercoagulation that can be caused from a variety of clotting factors. It's important for your viewers to understand when you reduce blood flow, you are reducing nutrient delivery to the cells. The cells themselves are then suffocated. Nutrients are not delivered to those cells, and you are by default malnourished. So you eat food. It's not just what you put in your stomach, and it's not just the quality of what you put in your stomach. Ultimately, nutrition is circulation. Circulation is nutrition. And if you blockade that, you are impeding the delivery of nutrients to the cells. And yes, eat food, don't deliver the nutrients, you become malnourished.
Well, it's like dropping helicopter loads of food on a developing nation. If it never gets to the people who are hungry, you're not going to feed the starving, right? So,
Absolutely.
but it's one way of putting it in is, to eat it. But even that, if people go to their grocery store and eat today, if they have problems with circulation, this thick blood syndrome and these coagulation issues, they're not going to get it to their cells. But isn't our food different today than it used to be? It's just, it doesn't have the same nutrition it used to have.
Well, certainly we have significant problems. The demands that we are putting on soil beds around the world are obviously tremendous. The foods themselves are oftentimes pre-picked and pre-harvested. They look very pretty, but unfortunately, unlike a vitamin product, they don't come with the supplement facts. And you can have a very pretty piece of produce there with very limited nutrient value. And then, of course, the issues that we're seeing routinely, for example, in our medical clinic here in San Francisco, it's very common to see people with malabsorption problems, digestive problems. Frankly, that's kind of the norm. And actually, when it comes to digestion, this can, we could even get into the discussion of how the methylation process plays a vital role in digestion.
Without getting too much into that now, because I have so many questions I want to ask you. Who needs vitamins? Does everybody need them? And how does a person know whether or not they need them?
Well, in a simple response to that, yes. Who needs vitamins? We all do. It's the whole purpose of why we eat. We are all eating to satisfy, to satisfy these individual biochemical needs. Each one of us is different based on two factors: lifestyle and genetics. But without any one single vitamin in your body, life ceases to exist. So the key is being able to get a proper balance of these nutrients. Unfortunately, a lot of people have become confused, especially when it comes to the concept of daily values, recommended daily allowance, recommended daily intake. These names and the concept of a so-called 100% is not the optimum. And for some people, they have to be very conscious of this, the fact that they're not using their nutrients as well. They can have genetic disorders which interfere. And certainly for these people with digestive problems, they're severely lacking in key nutrients. I've never seen anybody, and we've been doing now blood work since 1967 with patients. I have never seen somebody who was able to get adequate nutrient support out of the food that they eat. And in fact, my dad wrote about that in his original book, Mega Nutrition, where he called that the nutritional death sentence. Really, when it comes to nutrients and vitamins in general, the greatest risk with vitamins is not getting enough.
How does he explain that? Before the day of bottled vitamins, our bodies were allowed to live without supplementation of vitamins. What's changed? Have we changed genetically? Have we changed, or has our food changed, or has our environment changed, our lifestyle changed? Because obviously life goes on without vitamins, maybe just not longevity.
Well, ultimately, all your body function is based on these essential nutrients. Like I say, without one single nutrient in your system, life ceases to exist. Certainly, people can go quite a distance sometimes, being poorly nourished, but you can pay a significant price for that. And there are some people who are in greater need than others. In particular, people who have coagulation problems, people who've had exposure to heavy metals and other toxins. People, and we could talk for endlessly about these different chemical processes in the body, things like the P450 system and the cholinesterase factor, and the means by which the body methylates so that you can detoxify. What you really see is that there are some people who are more vulnerable than others. What we specialize in is identifying what's going on with your individual biochemistry, and most importantly, we document it. So our program in terms of laboratory analysis is based on 3 areas of study: nutrition, pollution, and stress. Obviously, the nutrition's pretty straightforward. Are you malnourished? We check for vitamins and minerals. Are you toxic? Exposures to heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides. It's pretty straightforward. But where we really put our focus in is on these key vulnerabilities and the stresses: hormone stress, blood coagulation stress, and something that a lot of people are starting to hear about these days, genetics and the genomic methylation. Those two are connected. And we get a very sizable amount of information to identify what's going on with our individual patients.
So for the person who's never taken vitamins before, you're saying, yes, everybody needs them because we don't get enough from our food. Our bodies need more. We need to supplement. So when I say vitamins, I'm going to mean supplementation.
Sure.
Of vitamins.
I would say, and there are many, even in the conventional medical world, who will tell you that your best insurance to maintain your health is to get a high quality multivitamin.
Let's talk about
of course,
that now. So
that can be difficult.
How do you know what to buy if you've never bought one before? And can you go to the big box store and buy one off the shelf? And what do you say to people who don't know what to buy? Or let's say talk to my mother who's 80 years old and she thinks she's supposed to take one, but she's been taking one that's silver, that comes in a plastic bottle. Yes. And it has everything.
Well,
that's all she needs.
Yeah, those are considered what are called, basic RDA type vitamins. The problem with getting real nutrients.
Look at them and they say 100% of everything, and on some things they'll say 200%. So I'm good if I get to that 100%.
Well, that of course gets into a whole nother controversy, and that the fact is that when we're talking nutrients and daily values, in large measure, we're actually trying to identify what's the smallest amount of a substance that we can give you just to keep you alive. Yeah. It's not; those numbers are not optimum. That's just the bare minimum just to survive. So one of the things that's been fortunate for us is that we've worked with tens of thousands of patients. We've done laboratory work for 50 years, and so that's what led us to develop our product. When it comes to vitamin tablets are the very worst. One of the problems you have is that the same people who need nutrients and who are malnourished, they'll take vitamin pills and they won't even absorb. They won't break down prior to their liver. They won't get access to those nutrients. And so in that regard, those people are, it's not uncommon to lose 80 or 90% of the nutritional value of this low dose multivitamin. So that's something to consider. Capsules are a little bit better. Capsules are not crammed together as tightly, but even with capsules, you're limited to how much you can put inside a capsule. So I realized
that was the question that was the question I was thinking of. So how do people know? So when you get all this advice, and you can get on the internet and go to Dr. Google and decide that you need some vitamin D and you need some vitamin C and you need some vitamin E, and should a person go and tell me the difference between buying each individual one, maybe in capsular form or maybe in a drinkable form, or can they be clustered together? And how would one make that decision?
Well, certainly there is a strategy. I of course am very proud of the fact that we got rid of all the pills. After talking to so many of our patients, I realized, and most of the patients that are coming to see us are dealing with rather serious conditions, whether it be cancer or vascular disease. And even for those people who are literally dealing with a life-threatening situation, there are days when they say, I just can't do all those pills, especially if they're having compromised digestion. It's a burden on the body. So, we went out of our way to actually make a product that would do away with all the pills altogether, because there's such an advantage to being able to drink your vitamins. And so we developed a very sound strategy, providing very select nutrients that also are not only providing your vitamins or your minerals, but as well your amino acids and these key factors that support this very important cycle that I was talking to you earlier about with regards to the methylation cycle.
So you're focusing in on that, so that if we improve someone's methylation cycle, then everything will work better for them.
Well, the methylation cycle, I hate to use the term silver bullet, but ultimately we are made of carbon, and there's only one carbon that the body can move around safely in the body, and that's methylcarbon. And that methylcarbon combines with vitamins on one side, key enzymes on the other side, to make about 500 products that control everything from your heart function, circulation, digestion, detoxification, immunity, and brain function. I'm mentioning methylation to you because as we're talking digestion, it is a fundamental foundation for digestive health. And it's really the first line of defense for digestion.
So let's say that a person is just figuring out that food is contributing to how they feel, okay? And they've just learned this, and they've gone through an elimination diet process. They've eliminated highly addictive, highly inflammatory foods. They've come in and they've cleaned their gut. They're trying to heal it and so forth. And now for the first time in their life, they're going to say, I'm going to really try to find a quality vitamin and try to support my gut biosis, okay, balance that, and support my gut function and gut health, and then make sure my body's getting these nutrients. Where does methylation fit for that brand new person? Because that seems higher level, or can that be basic? Does that need to be, when you say silver bullet, is that something we should think of first, or do we think of that after we've made sure you have everything else?
It gives you the biggest leg up. It is a huge support factor. When you're not methylating well, everything starts to fail. And in particular, the first organ of the body that starts to fail and shut down when you're not methylating well is your pancreas. And if your pancreas isn't working very well, it's going to be very, very difficult to be able to digest food. These people, for example, with leaky gut and inflammatory conditions that they're dealing with there, oftentimes you'll find that they're actually in pancreatic failure. Pancreas shuts down, and something that, it's not just producing digestive enzymes, something that you have to be aware of with the pancreas. The pancreas puts out a quart of bicarbonate every single day. So, we've got this incredible balance, when people talk, acid, alkaline, right? Well, the fact is you're not alkaline. You've got hydrochloric acid in your stomach. You've got enzymes, digestion starts in the mouth. Amylase enzymes are in the mouth and the saliva, and that's why it's always an important thing. Chew your food. Something as simple as that. Chew your food.
Talk about that. Yeah.
and of course.
So do you agree with what I think is true, which is people think they're over acidic, so they're taking antacids, but that's actually not the problem most of the time.
These people that are taking antacids are actually doing themselves a terrible disservice. Mm-hmm. They're winding up destroying their ability to digest food. Yeah. It's horrific. And then of course you get some people who are going wild with probiotics, and they're throwing everything in the kitchen sink, and all they're doing is getting gassy. When in fact, first and foremost, you'll find out oftentimes these people come from vascular family risk histories, and they actually are in pancreatic distress. Their pancreas is starting to shut down.
And it shows itself in ways that people don't immediately think.
Dysbiosis, bilious reflux, GERD. These are common issues with methylation.
So, and you're saying to treat it a different way rather than to add pancreatic enzymes to a supplement list.
You want to be able to support the overall methylation cycle. And of course, that's one of the big fundamental things that we wanted to bring to the table. I wanted to make vitamins a pleasure. So that means, that's what we have with our little packets. These mix with just a half a glass of water, but more importantly, they replace about a dozen vitamin pills. They're so gentle that you can do it with or without food on an empty stomach. And it's providing very hard to get nutrients, in particular, a very special form of vitamin B12. People are shocked to learn that if you take a look at most over-the-counter vitamin supplements, you'll find that almost all of them, we're talking well over 95% of the vitamin supplements marketed today as multivitamins. Over 95% of them use a form of vitamin B12 that is not normally found in the human body, cannot be used by the body until it is converted back into our special form of vitamin B12 called hydroxycobalamin. That form of B12 typically, to get it, you have to go to a medical practice like ours and get it as an intramuscular injection or as an intravenous therapy. But this B12 has a multitude of benefits. Number one, it's the only, it preferentially enters the cell, number one, so you gain access to it. Number two, it's able to readily convert to the active forms of B12. And these forms of active B12 are designed to be made in the cell, controlled by the body for the specific set of circumstances that you're in. So adenylyl and methyl B12, those are the active forms of B12. They're made under very specific circumstances in the body. Some people will go out and start taking methyl B12, and they can actually throw off this delicate balance of methylation, and they don't feel good. So we have a very special form of vitamin B12, and it makes a huge difference. It's the only B12 that's also carried on the blood protein, what's called albumin. So it has an alternative delivery system. It's very important for people who are doing a vegetarian or a vegan diet. It's the only B12 that detoxifies cyanide, unregulated nitric oxide, ammonia, and sulfite. So especially for vegans and smokers who tend to get high cyanogenic compounds through their lifestyle, this is the only B12 they should be using regularly. So these are some of the strategies that went into our product and the way in which we formulated our product. But certainly, back to the basics, I think that I don't really know anybody who has an ideal diet and who's able to get really all the time quality food, who's, people are under so much stress today from a variety of reasons. And of course, being surrounded by poisons, that it's easy things to fall through the cracks. And so to have a reliable source of nutrient support just makes sense. Like I say, the greatest risk with vitamins is not getting enough. It's a simple concept, but you'd be shocked. And like I say, people who are presenting, who are having some challenges, you see it in black and white when you run your laboratory, and it's wonderful to be able to document it. We've got these tools. Most people are very surprised to learn that most physicians are making decisions without having a lot of information. At most and at best, for most people, all they get is an incomplete blood count, which doesn't tell you much.
But in all honesty, you do sell your products. You do sell vitamins off the shelf. So there's a population of people who don't have pre and post testing and who won't be able to see that laboratory evidence of whether or not the vitamin works. And if they're out there looking to see what can I buy and what kind should I buy, and without a lab test, can feeling better indicate that I'm doing something good for myself. On a basic level, I think that feeling better is a good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the only reason why I'm still in business. I've had remarkable success. I've had, a number of physicians. We work with other physicians as well. I've had really tremendous response from people. In fact, I tell people, if you want to save yourself some time and you want to do a methylation test, one of the simplest tests you can do is have an Olaloa, especially at your lowest point, and see how you feel. I mean, that'll tell you something.
That's good. So that's a do it at home kind of thing to test and see what that gives you. So is it important to, so you said something about people are giving too many probiotics. I'm hearing your opinion about that and getting gassy and whatever. But let's suppose we supplement with vitamins. We have good vitamins. We drink vitamins, or we take good quality capsular vitamins. Then do you like to recommend people do it in any particular order, like populate the gut and then add the vitamins, or have to have the vitamins first and then populate, or can you start those regimens at the same time?
Well, certainly you can. And certainly I mean, this goes beyond vitamins. I mean, certainly I think it just is common sense. Our program, for example, it starts off with a few basic rules. And of course, the first thing is, of course, get good quality food. Whole foods. Try and stay away from these processed, extraordinary adulterated food products that oftentimes, out of convenience, a lot of people turn to. Here in California and in San Francisco, where I'm from, food here is like a religion. And we're very, very fortunate. We have some tremendous small farms around the San Francisco Bay Area, and a number of fabulous restaurants that really embrace, farm to table. So, we're very fortunate, but it makes a huge difference. If you take a look at what a lot of people in this country are doing, you just have to go through some grocery stores and watch at the supermarkets, and it's incredible. Oftentimes these people will be focused in the center of the store with frozen foods and processed foods, and they never get to the outer section with all the wholesome real foods. But even that you got to be careful about. Some of these things, like I say, organic foods oftentimes come with it heavy metals.
They do. They do.
The world that we live in, if you take a look at where some of these foods are grown, lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic is commonplace in a lot of these foods. The reality is, you got to sometimes take a little of the bad with the good, and certainly you want to make sure that your own biochemistry is optimally working, so that if you do encounter these toxins, your body's got a fighting chance.
What happens to some people when they take a shift, their body almost is used to bad food, and so when you switch to good food and now you're trying to clear out these toxins and get the liver going again and catching up, I always just say it's sort of like taking out the trash and then keeping up with taking out the trash. That every single day when we sleep, we should be able to be cleaning our body and removing those toxins. When you add back vitamins, do you find that people tolerate starting, and like you said, if you drink Ololo vitamins, you should feel better immediately if you need them, or does my liver have to get used to metabolizing those vitamins itself?
Well, certainly, one of the neat things about our product is that it has major lipotropic effect, meaning that it supports the liver. There's the equivalent of 3 pounds of beets in every one of these packets. To be able to get a gram of betaine and a gram of glycine, you would literally be eating 3 pounds of beets.
So you're supporting that process in the formulation.
And certainly keep in mind, when your body chemistry is working well, you might feel things a little bit more powerfully, but your body's healing rapidly. I am very conscious when I feel poisoned. I mean, my body reacts and I can feel it. But you have to be very careful when people are malnourished and all of a sudden they get hit. Sometimes it can really knock them out. I mean, it can be a night and day difference. So just take a look at these people, for example, who are being knocked out by the flu. Vitamins, don't get me wrong. You're not going to, avoid a cold. You're not going to avoid the flu per se, but certainly you'll get through it much more efficiently. Your body will work better. And, some people who are unfortunately poorly nourished, they get hit with these bugs and it can finish them off.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? I was so proud of Mark. Mark, I was so proud of him this year because he got hit with a pretty significant virus. And being that he has had asthma a lot of his lifetime, these are things that we worked real hard to keep him out of the hospital, because it can be a serious thing. But because he's healthier than he's ever been and his body was able to fight it, I mean, you're right. This was a flu year that killed a lot of people who you wouldn't have thought would succumb to such a thing. And I know from our experience, we're excited when making lifestyle changes can mean that maybe we can't keep from getting the flu because we travel in airplanes. And if you do that, you're going to get a lot of exposure.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, lots.
That's very, very good advice. Just wash your hands. Be aware, touching your face.
And try not to go to the bathroom. And so, all that. But those he calls them canisters. Those flying canisters are dirty. They're a hotbed of everything. So, but just being celebratory of the fact that you can make lifestyle choices, you can make choices in your vitamins and supplementation that can allow you to certainly get through those things that try to get you down and jump back into.
Sure. Well, just what you were mentioning. Just being in an airplane, there are people who are vulnerable just being in an airplane, in particular, people who have this syndrome of hypercoagulation. Clotters, they get at altitude. What do you think happens? Why do you think some people will die 3 or 4 days after they've been on an airplane?
Yeah. Deep
people develop clots right there in the aircraft. So certainly, I mean, I would not travel without this. I come from a heart attack family. I tend to run high homocysteine. I'm conscious of these things. So I'm, of course. Yeah. What's sad is that we've had this information for 50 years. And what people don't realize is the limited medical care that they really get and the limited information they get. It's amazing to me that people are being told, they'll do an incomplete blood count. They'll say everything looks great. And then they'll wait for these people to have a heart attack or a stroke, and they're treating them after the damage has been done. We actually want to avoid that.
Right. No, but that's the shift. That's the mindset shift, really. True. Well, I went to my doctor for my physical this year, and she usually orders a CBC and does an EKG and has me pee in a cup, and that's good. Says everything's perfect, right? So this year I went in with my whole list of about, I don't know how many specific lab tests I wanted. I said, here, I want all of these, and I want insurance to pay for them. So she types them all in, and we got them all done. And I guarantee you that, I had to wonder, she didn't know what they all were, nor would she know what to do with the information that she got back from them, saying, why do you want this? And it was amazing.
It is shocking. It is utterly shocking what I've experienced. I mean, I've seen colleagues of my dad's and people who are in the medical field, in the conventional medical field, and there's a lot that it's not on their radar.
Well, it sounds like you're pro lab testing on the front end. I mean, I know in the practice you see really sick people, but if we're talking about people who are generally healthy out there, moms, dads, whatever, middle-aged and young people for the most part, do you think testing on the front end is the way to do it? Because it is available. Testing is available through me. It's available through functional medicine practitioners or through doctors. But, some people say, I just want to start something and see if I feel better. But it sounds like you're really biased towards genetic testing and towards some of these laboratory tests.
Well, certainly I would say you want to do a genetic test. The first thing you do is you ask yourself, are your parents okay? Are they still with us? What about your grandparents? And get a family history. If you've got a family history of either vascular disease or cancer, then I would say you want to know your clotting factors sooner rather than later, because these factors don't get better over time. They get worse. I'll let you in on a little secret. Mother Nature has a plan for all of us. And clotting factors, they get progressively worse. And so it's nice to know what you're up against and what your vulnerabilities are.
Yeah, certainly not to be a way that you intend to die, because I don't want to scare people with that, but to say that so you know how to make the lifestyle choices that you need to make sure that isn't the way that gets you, or that you don't manifest that illness or disease by making poor lifestyle choices.
Let me give you an example. We had a gentleman who was 44, 45 years old, active all of his life. And within a 6-month period, this gentleman had become completely disabled, unable to walk. They were scheduling him for a hip replacement at 45. So he came in to see my dad, and we did an intake and get a family history. And interestingly enough, every male in his family was dead by 55 from a major vascular event. Long story short, we did the clotting assessment on him. We checked homocysteine, fibrinogen, lipoprotein A, factors 2 and 5, small dense LDL, platelets. It was off the charts. He had multiple clotting factors that were just off the charts. We started treating him prior to his surgery. That he went into surgery. The blood flow was so reduced that he was unable to feed the extremity. His hip had become gelatinous. This is the kind of person that would not be out of the question for him to die during surgery from a major clotting event. I'm happy to tell you he's done very, very well. But this is just, this is a classic case. Mm-hmm. People have to be aware of the fact that there are some functional hurdles that they can identify. Yeah. And then, of course, there are some people, no fault of their own, who have these encumbrances to their biochemistry and who've had some bad luck. You get somebody who's been overfluoridated, who's been in an agricultural environment, and they're being sprayed. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he's dealing with some cancer issues. And as a young man, he used to spray DDT all over the place. It was a common thing. Oh, and the fact is, the mathematics of poisons, 1 and 1 for some people doesn't make 2. It's more like 20. Yeah. Same thing with clotting factors. And if you just happen to have detoxification impairment, methylation impairment, coagulation impairment, and be malnourished, you put all those things together, you've got a bit of a tougher challenge getting through that situation. And so we have the tools to be able to at least identify it. But certainly, there's no question. If you want to start off simple, many people tell me that when they use the Ololoa product and they use our vitamin drink, they feel like different people.
you have multiple products, and you can tell me what they
We
are.
do.
So how would a person know which one to start with? Or how
Well,
would
certainly, I mean, the foundation of our line, which represents the majority of our work, is our energy product. It's a play on words. It's not a stimulant. Ololoa Energy is comprised of 36 vitamins, minerals, amino acids, digestives, electrolytes, osmolytes, mixes with about a half a glass of water, doesn't induce an insulin push, is safe for diabetics. There's no stimulants, no artificial flavors, no preservatives. And it's
Is there
providing.
anybody it's not safe for? Is there
No,
anybody not? Okay.
I've used it with. I made the product. I mean, ultimately, what led me to do this was purely out of selfish means. When I originally started this project with my dad 20 years ago, I wanted him to create a line of products, and it was going to be 4 or 5 different products, and it was going to require you to take multiple pills from multiple bottles throughout the day. And my son was 2 years old at the time, and I just realized, this is crazy. No one really enjoys taking pills. There's so many hurdles to taking pills. There's some people who just won't take them at all. And then as you study it, you start to realize there are a number of advantages that you get, especially when you're doing effervescent products like this. As soon as it complexes, you're making an ion solution. You're making a colloid solution. So absorption is increased. You've got ion exchange occurring. So the vitamin C becomes non-acidic, and you're getting mineral ascorbates, mineral complexes. You're getting much better mineral utilization. So we have 3 different flavors of our multi. We have a complementary product, which is richer in minerals and amines. It's our repair.
Okay.
And this is again a very thoughtful product. It's of course has calcium and magnesium in a 1-to-1 ratio, along with glucosamine and carnitine and taurine and ginger, gotu kola, vanadium, inositol, vitamin K, calcium pyruvate. I mean, it's unusual. Most of these mineral products that are out there today are, maybe 4 to 5 ingredients. This is a 5-in-1 bone joint formula, but it also gets into mineral support, heart function, better sleep, and it's a very nice complementary product to go along with the multi. We also have a hydration product that we do. That's our answer to some of these electrolyte products that are out there that are primarily just sugar. They load you up with 85%, 90% sugar with some vitamin C, and they don't take into consideration that vitamin C is a very powerful chelator. In particular, it'll pull copper right out. So we provide trace copper in these products to be able to protect you from that. Copper loss can be very, very dangerous. You have to be very, very careful about that. So these are some of the little tidbits of what went into the formulation. And we also, of course, do a high potency specialized tablet that dissolves in your mouth of vitamin B12 with a special form of active folate, methylfolate, the type of folate that comes out of food. It's a form known as quadrafolic, so it's much more bioavailable. And so that's really our line and what we've put together. And again, one of the things
it's evolved over time, hasn't it? I mean, your formulations have really changed. I haven't known you too terribly long, but from what I'm hearing, they have evolved. You had a drinkable vitamin, you had an effervescent thing, but you have expanded what you've been able to pack in there.
Well, the vitamin industry is very good at fooling people. They try and put as little as possible in a product, and they try to get you to buy multiple products. And it's just not realistic. I wanted to make a product that would be convenient for people and become really a part of their lifestyle beyond just the science. I mean, I could talk your ear off about the science. We have a strategy, and that's really what I hope you get from talking to me. The product is developed with an understanding of what most people are lacking. And doing it in a way which is not only, sensible, but also enjoyable.
Is it sensible for someone to be able to maintain their nutritional needs and reverse their malnutrition with just your drinkable products?
Oh, certainly. Absolutely. I mean, if you're doing one of these, you're way ahead of the game. And certainly, we work with a lot of interesting clients, people who do some extraordinary things. I mean, certainly I've worked with people from the athletic world to the medical world. and it has made a huge difference. I've even been impressed with the fact that when my son was in high school, he was getting his buddies would start to, they would feel so good, and it was helping them to compete. They were going away from things like soft drinks. Soft drinks are an absolute scourge in the United States, and what they have done, it's absolutely astonishing. More people these days are getting their liquids from soft drinks than water. It's absolutely astonishing. And there's generations of people who are accustomed to drinking 5 or 6 of these soft drinks every single day.
Because people have, the soft drink industry has said that water is bad for you. Water's poison, it's dirty. So, there's reasons to avoid water and to say that it's contaminated. So drink this can and it's sterile and it's better. But that's a whole other story. But I think what I love about what you've said, you said so many good things and I appreciate it so much, but there certainly is a subset of those population who have an adversity to swallowing tablets. They prefer to drink, they prefer to eat, they prefer to chew. The effervescence gives it an experience in the mouth that is pleasing. You said enjoyable. I like that too. I can certainly see that this is an ideal way for people to get a real advantage over taking multiple pills from multiple bottles. And we're not going to say capsules, we're going to say, but also getting a complete solution potentially to their malnutrition, that even though we're eating in this highly industrialized society, we are still malnourished and we need supplementation of some sort. So you guys have done an incredible job, and I know that you have spent your lifetime doing it with just passion and love and really the science behind it to provide a situation where people can get what they need and enjoy it and not swallow. I know you can get, the swallowing can be hard.
Well, I'm very proud of it. Ultimately, like I say, I got into this because I had my own personal experience, and then watching my father heal people over the years. My dad is my hero, and to see him, practicing medicine at 85 years old and having his dynamic is just incredible. And to hear him speak has been so illuminating for me. Like I say, I have a tremendous respect for balancing the chemistry and making sure that these systems are working properly, and that we've got the elements to make it work. There's nothing better than experiencing something like this, and it really does truly change your life.
Well, and I was thinking about how many people listening to this are moms and kids taking vitamin pills or even chewing gummy vitamins and all of that. They just don't want to do it. But I think the real opportunity for the youth and for moms to take advantage of this opportunity to be introduced to your drinkable products. Do you have a separate product for kids, or to a certain
I am reformulating the kids product. Certainly, we've done a great deal of work. The first treatable case of autism in America was my dad's case. So we've worked with specialty needs children in a pretty substantial way. And we've used the other products for them as well. So I am working on a new version of our kids. I'm just reformulating it right now. But certainly all of our products are child safe. And again, the key to this is, especially if they like it. If you get somebody who likes the flavor, that's at least half the battle.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today about vitamins. And it's just a pleasure and a privilege to know you, and a super privilege to also have met Dr. Kunin and to have met your dad. It is a day I will never forget. I hope to see and meet him again very soon.
Well, we'd love to set that up for you.
All right. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Goodbye for now.